Hola, buenos
Everyone.
todos. Vamos a ver, vamos a dar comienzo al.
English.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Let's start with our webinar. We have quite an important attendance. Let's give 2 or 3 minutes for latecomers to see if they arrive. And yeah, I'm testing that we can move the presentation properly, so everything seems to be in order. Thank you so very much for being here with us. And as I said, let's give 2 3 minutes, not much longer, because we want to make sure we go through the contents as soon as we can, because we're confident you have many questions for us. And that's the party probably what we'll be waiting for. So just 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll get started.
Perhaps, Carlos, in the meantime, we can introduce a bit ourselves. I think that most of you either know Carlos or myself, or perhaps Isa, who is in maternity leave. So basically, we're part of the business development team. And what we're going to do today is cover mainly the new regulation of Verifactu. Okay, we'll understand the scope of the regulation, how will it affect your business, timelines, etc. Okay. So yeah, I think, Carlos, that perhaps we
Yes.
can
Okay.
start
Then.
now. Perhaps,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's been 2 minutes. Maybe we're being a bit tough here, but yeah, that's we have a
In
lot of
any case,
content to
it will
cover.
be recorded. It will be recorded.
Exactly.
So if any of you joins late or you need it afterwards, you can ask for it and we'll send it to you. Okay.
Exactly. Okay. So welcome you all to this first of a series of webinars we're going to be holding. And I say series because we have programmed at least 3 webinars. Today, we're going to go through a general overview of the upcoming regulations, how they affect us, and what we can do, what we have to do, and how we can do it in the easiest possible way for all of us. And further webinars will go deeper into the details of the regulations, legal details, and some others on the technical aspects of how to comply with these new regulations and systems. As we were saying before, my partner Eduardo Jacobo and myself, Carlos Prallong, we both belong to the business development team here, of Fiscal here in Spain. You probably know as well Isabel Nogales, who's our country manager. But today it'll be Eduardo and me presenting this webinar for you
Just
guys. So let me go.
a brief clarification, Carlos. Sorry. So in this first webinar, as Carlos said, we're just going to cover the legal
Mhm.
aspects. We're going to have a second webinar where we will go a bit deeper into technical details, and we will invite one of the top
Yeah, a
positions
top
in
official.
the
Yeah.
in a top official in the IT department of the tax authority of the National Tax Agency. Okay, and then we'll have a third webinar where we will dive into the integration of the SignES solution. Okay, just that small clarification. Sorry, Carlos, keep going.
Yes. No, 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 not at all. So today, what we're gonna go through today is we're gonna try to give like some overall understanding of what the anti-fraud law and the Verifactu system means and is. We'll go through the implications for software developers. Then this is important. We'll focus on the penalties for non-compliance, which are very serious. That's why we have to. It has to have its very own chapter, and then we'll give you some hints on how you can comply without having to change the software and migrate your whole system to a different software to the one you're using or developing as of today. So we start with the fiscal regulations in Spain, and maybe Eduardo would like to explain this to us.
Thank you, Carlos. Okay, so this is the current context we have in Spain. And basically, we're going to focus on the anti-fraud law. Okay. Many of you are located in different countries. Probably in the country where you reside or where you have operations and clients, you know that these type of anti-fraud regulations are all over Europe in different forms, but they all have the same objective, which is to combat, to diminish, to eliminate fraud. Okay, so in Spain we have some complexity because of historical reasons, and how does this tax complexity translate to you? So we have a couple regions. One is called the Basque Country, the other is called Navarra, which they have issued or they will issue their own fiscal legislation. In the Basque Country, it's ticket buy. Many of you, many of the attendants have already heard about ticket buy. And then in Navarra, there's a fiscal regulation that will be published. Okay, we know it will be published, and we know the fiscal system will be different from ticket buy and Verifactu. Okay.
And excuse me, Eduardo. If this was not enough, the Basque Country has three provinces, and each and every one of them has their own particularities when it comes to fiscal compliance. Like, just in case this wasn't complicated enough as a country. Sorry, Eduardo. Just keep going.
Yes. Um, so yeah, and then in the rest of Spain, we basically have two fiscal regulations. One is for the largest companies, those that make over 6 million euros in annual revenue. Those have to comply with SII. This is a regulation that has been in place since 2017. Okay, but the big new thing is for the smaller ones, those that have a revenue below 6 million euros, that will be affected by Verifactu. Okay, perhaps a question that you may be thinking of: how do you know if either ticket buy, the regulation of the Basque Country, applies, or the one in Navarra or Verifactu applies? What matters is the fiscal residence of the legal entity. Okay, if they're based in the Basque Country, ticket buy. If they're based in Navarra, at the moment they have nothing to comply with, but they will. If they're in the rest of Spain, Verifactu. Okay, so I think this is a good overview for the moment. Let's dive into Verifactu, which is the new thing. The ministerial order, which is a legal document here in Spain, was published a couple weeks ago, and here's what you need to know. As we have said, the objective of Verifactu is to combat, to eliminate fraud. Okay, as we said, it will affect all entities or legal entities, all self-employed, with an annual revenue below 6 million euros and with fiscal residence in Spain, but outside the Basque Country and Navarra. Okay, this regulation will not only affect taxpayers, but also software developers. Okay, both parties have responsibility here. So you must have a compliant solution in order to sell it here in Spain, and so that your customers can use your billing functionalities. Okay, it's important that you are compliant. You must comply. I think we have it later, but I can mention it now. We know that the deadline for software developers to comply is the 29th of July 2025, so next year, in less than 9 months. We can see it in this. Basically, I mean, here's the timeline of the different regulations. We can see in the top part that the ministerial order was published. It was published in October 29th. And
Well,
then we have 9
it was
months.
actually on
Yes?
the 28th. So the 9 months started
Okay.
counting on the 29th. But it was
Okay.
the 28th
Right.
that, yeah,
Right. Right. Carlos, you are totally right.
exactly.
So yeah, basically it started being valid on the 29th. Okay. We have 9 months. That's why the the time or the date you have to have on your head is the 29th of July 2025. By that date, you need to have a compliant solution. Okay. And then you may ask, okay, so then when is it mandatory for taxpayers, for your customers? At the moment, there is no official date, and we don't want to get too deep into this, but there's some bureaucracy stuff. But basically, the most probable date is the 1st of January 2026. This is not official. This is not official. We know that they're working on this deadline or on this date, but we have different sources and we have some certainty, some probability. There's a high probability that it will be in January 2026. Okay, but you need to be adapted by July 29th, 2025. In Verifactu, there are two different systems. There are two ways of complying. And particularly, I think that perhaps how it's named, it's not the best, but it's how it is. Okay, so we have two systems or two ways of complying: Verifactu and non-Verifactu mode. Okay, in the Verifactu mode, there's real-time sending to the tax authority. In the non-Verifactu mode, there is an electronic sign and it is stored. Okay, so basically what's going to happen is the following. A client of yours is going to issue a sale like always, okay, an invoice, a receipt. It doesn't matter in Spain. This is something important that I didn't mention, okay? In Spain, it doesn't matter if you get paid in cash, if you get paid by card, if it's an online sale, if it's a physical sale, it doesn't matter if the amount is €1, if it is 3,000 euros, all sales have to be fiscalized, okay? All sales. So there's a sale register in your system. You send a JSON with the mandatory data we have specified in the API documentation, and we are in charge of chaining those invoices. We do several validations before sending it to the tax authority. We sign those files, and then we take care of the response, okay? So basically, you have to do the integration, and we take care of the full obligation of Verifactu, okay? I know that in the Verifactu mode, in there you can see real-time sending. There's no mandatory electronic signing, but in our system, we're going to incorporate the electronic signing mandatory because that's a recommendation from the tax authority, and we want to be on the safe side with the tax authority. So in both systems, we will sign the files electronically. Okay. So again, Verifactu. Yes, go ahead.
One
Go
thing
ahead.
about the real-time sending, we learned with the ministerial order that the sending is going to happen every 60 seconds. Okay, it's not going to be like real-time each and every one. It's going to be, we're going to get them together and send them in every 60 seconds. Just because there's talks in there if it's going to be real time or not, depending on this issue. We call it real time, but it's going to be actually once a minute. Sorry.
In your case, you will send it to us right away. It's us who will send it in batches every 60 seconds. Okay, but in your case, you send it right away. And again, Verifactu mode, real-time sending. The signing is optional. We will put it mandatory in our API. And then we have the other option, no Verifactu mode, which is electronic signing, storage of those files. And the tax agency may say, hey, I want all the files of this taxpayer from this date to this date. Please send them to me. You need to have that connection as well. Okay. So I think I didn't leave anything. Carlos, can you talk a bit about the implications for software vendors?
Exactly. That's pretty much what we want to cover today. This is important because the regulation, unlike some other markets in our environment, in this case, this regulation makes also, lays some responsibility on the software provider, not only on the contributor not to commit fraud, but the software provider must make sure that his or its software cannot be used as a tool or means to commit any sort of fraud whatsoever. And this responsibility is comes with fines that are very serious, as we'll cover in a minute. And so you probably it's like what kind of software is going to be affected by this responsibility the law is pointing to, and it's basically any software that deals with invoices because it applies to any software that you can use to issue invoices, accept billing information, storing billing information, processing billing information. So basically, we're talking about any billing software. We're talking about ERPs, management softwares, hotel management software, and those from independent software developers that does billing. I mean, custom enterprise software when it includes billing or sending invoices or dealing with invoices. So I mean, basically, any software that deals with invoices is directly affected, and it's very important that complies. Because, as I said, let's cover the penalties, and this is a very serious action. As the taxpayer who commits fraud is facing a fine, a possible potential fine of 50 up to 50,000 euros per year, the software provider is facing a potential fine of 150,000 per year, and customer who's using the software, a software that is not complying with the regulation. Meaning, you have 100 customers, there's a problem there. You can do the math. Better not do it because I mean we're talking about some obscene amounts of money. We don't even want to think about it. But as I said, it's very extremely serious. It's mandatory that we comply because the alternative is something that we don't want to face. Fortunately, Eduardo can tell us now how we can comply without having to migrate to different systems, to having to go through a very endless and painful process. Please, Eduardo.
Okay, thank you, Carlos. So, I mean, obviously, you have two options. One is to do the integration directly with the tax agency on your own. There's definitely a pain and a difficulty here. Basically, you need to look for all the documentation, do all the research, do all the development, and probably the hardest part that is not taken into account is the maintenance. Okay, as we know, this is purely a compliance product. It doesn't really add value to your customers. That's why we think we can be valuable to you through our APIs, through a specialized compliance solution. As you, all of, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, all of the attendants kind of know fiscally. You know that we have reliable products, we have very well documented products, and we think that the REST API that can be integrated with, in 7 to 10 days can be a great solution to comply and forget about this topic and focus on the relevant things. And by the way, you can use the chat on the top right, and you can type down all the questions you have. Okay, we will answer them at the end of the webinar. So basically what we do is we stand in the middle between software developers and the tax authorities. As I previously mentioned, you send us the JSON with the relevant data. It's data that you already have on your system, fields that you already have on your system, typical data, who issues the invoice, what are the amounts, the VAT, etc. And we do all the backend work, and we send it to the tax authority, and we comply with the obligation that you have. What are the benefits? We already talked about a bit about the benefits of integrating the API, but for many of you that are international, are working in other countries, it's basically for you a way to get peace of mind, complying, no trouble, easy integration, and obviously avoiding penalties, right? We're also seeing, or we see a great opportunity here, because in Spain, in many sectors, and obviously will depend on the industry and it will depend on the geographic location. We know that this is going to be a disruptive factor for growth, and having a fast solution can be or can open up a lot of opportunity. This means that, again, as we said, in 7-10 days that you do the integration, you have a compliant solution, you can do your SEO, you can do your SEM, and you can definitely grow the market share you have in the country. So we think it's definitely a great opportunity for you. Okay. So Carlos, tell us a bit, please,
Yes.
about fiscally. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure thing. Thank you very much, Eduardo. But first, I see that some people joined the presentation after we started a few minutes. We were into it. For those, I'd like to say, after the presentation, you're gonna receive a link with the full video so you can watch it properly. But still, I mean, feel free if you have any questions in the chat section, because after we finish the presentation, we're gonna spend some as much as we can trying to answer all the questions you may have. So, and now please allow us to talk a bit about ourselves. In fiscally, we what do we do? We understand nobody likes very much paying taxes. We might understand they're necessary, but we don't particularly enjoy paying them. So our philosophy is trying to make it as simple as we can. With that philosophy, we are market leaders in huge markets like Germany, as for example, we have like 200,000 businesses that rely on us to comply with their different fiscal systems, and we have like a 650,000 points of sales that are currently being fiscalized through our, I mean, relying on our solutions. So you can, I mean, we are market leaders in Europe, and okay, and I jumped too fast into this next slide, but as we were saying before, this is the first of a series of webinar. We're going to try to cover all the aspects, and next one we're going to go a bit deeper, well, much deeper actually, into technical details, and we're going to have it with us, Javier Hurtado, who belongs to the National Tax Authority, the IT department. So he knows better than anyone else about the implications of this law and how to translate that into code and into software management. It's going to be happening on the 26th, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that there's sort of a screen there where you can subscribe already, if I'm not mistaken. And okay, as I said, well, there's the email you can contact us. But most of you have the my contact details, or maybe Eduardo's. Feel free to reach out to us. But now, I mean, I think, well, I believe there's been some questions laid on the chat, so maybe it's time
Yes.
to focus on those.
Yes, so perhaps before that, we sent you a poll that I think it went a bit fast on several questions regarding how you plan to take care of the situation, all of that. Cami, could we put it live again, the poll, so that the attendants can respond if it's possible? You can all see it in the interactions tab.
Mm, okay. Yeah, it's live. It's live as we speak, Eduardo.
Okay, it's live as we speak. Perfect, perfect. In any case, meanwhile, we're gonna check the questions. Okay. And the first question from Unax was, okay, let me see. Okay, the first graphic said SII for companies below 6 million euros. That's all, no big deal. So just a small clarification here. SII is for companies with revenue above 6 million euros. Okay. And I'm pretty sure that if you have any customers that have to comply with SII, they have been done it for some time and they have a solution in place. So probably, I mean, you can double check just in case, but probably there's nothing you have to do with these large customers. What you should take into account is the smaller customers. In any case, do we have it written properly in the Let me
Yes,
see.
yes, it's
I
it's
think we
it's been
should,
it's been
right?
fixed. Yeah, it's been fixed. This was a typing error in this
Okay, okay, it
presentation.
was a
Yeah,
typo
no,
from our side.
it's
Okay,
fixed. It's
okay.
fixed on the other ones. Okay, we have another question from Cesare. Hope I'm saying that name right. That asked if it was for invoices or also simplified receipts. Yes, it applies to any sort of invoice, no matter if it's simplified or complete invoice. The kinds of invoices we have in Spain. Any a single ticket from a purchase is considered a simple invoices and requires the
Mhm,
to be registered and either sent live in Verifactu mode or electronically signed and kept safe like Eduardo explained before. So
mhm, mhm.
every sort of invoice has to comply. Okay,
Perhaps
another
just
question.
a small addition here. Um, we're basically talking about different types of invoices, okay? But we also mean receipts. I know that in some countries, you know, the terminology is a bit different, but basically, for us, a simplified invoice is a receipt, okay? So no recipient data. Then we have the complete invoice where you have recipient data, and then we have the correcting invoice, okay, which basically serves to, uh, yeah, to correct a previously issued invoice. Okay, so we're talking about all types of invoices of sales. Okay. Okay,
Mhm.
so next one. For ticket buy, there's an obligation to certify your ERP as software garante. What about Verifactu? Okay, so here, a small clarification here. Um, it is not actually compulsory. So we are certified as software garante, and you doing the integration with us, you don't have to certify. That's for ticket buy. Okay. The ERP doesn't have to compulsorily certify. Okay. If you integrate us, you don't have to certify. That's for ticket buy. For Verifactu, it's a bit different. For Verifactu, we have to certify. I mean, not certify. We have to issue or yeah, we have to send
Publish sort of.
uh, yeah, we have to send a declaration of responsibility, and you also have to do it as well. We will accompany you through this process. Okay. At the moment, the document, this declaration of responsibility document, has not been published, so we cannot share it with you. But again, the response would be yes, you have to do some kind of bureaucracy, some work, but it's a declaration of responsibility, and we will accompany you through this process. Okay.
Okay, we have a question from Nuno. He asked, do we have with Verifactu similar requirements as we have with Cash and Shift or DSF-VK? Yeah, there's German solutions. And well, with I don't know deeply these systems, but with Verifactu, it's just one integration. It's either the Verifactu or the non-Verifactu mode, like Eduardo explained before. So every sort of transaction has to turn into an XML file, which has to be signed and sent, or signed and kept. And but that's all the integration you need. I mean, on top of your software being making sure that the registries of the every invoice is incorruptible.
But
It's not changeable or
basically,
deletable.
Nuno, as Carlos said, only one integration. We either send it to the Basque tax agency, to the Navarra tax agency, to the Spanish national tax agency. It's only one integration, no more integrations. You send us the JSON with the data, and that's it. We take care of the rest. Okay, we take care of the rest. The only thing that you have to really take into account is that it cannot be possible to edit a previously issued invoice. Okay, it cannot be touched through your system. That's the only relevant thing. By that, we also mean No elimination, no nothing. If it's issued, it's issued. It cannot be touched. The rest, we take care of it through the different endpoints we have and with the information we ask you to send us. Okay? Okay, next one. Jeremy, assuming we have this all in place already and a user avoids using the system correctly to avoid taxes, and we become aware are we to report it? If so, to whom? Okay, Jeremy. So here, what's important is we have to understand that we all have different obligations. Okay, the obligation for fiscally is to comply with the Verifactu obligation. Your obligation is that your software doesn't allow a customer of yours to use it fraudulently. How would you say that?
Yes,
Fraudulent.
yes,
Yes.
fraudulently.
Yes. But obviously, if your customer doesn't want to, um, doesn't want to register a sale, it's not your responsibility. So we really have to understand that. Um, so that's what I would say. Just try to focus on what you can do, and what you can't do. It's actually it's not in your scope of action. Let's say.
Yeah, the responsibility is huge because the fines are huge, but actually it's limited to your software. As long as your software cannot be used as a means to commit fraud, you're clean and safe. And if someone who uses your software commits fraud, you're not obligated to report him more than you are if you see he drinks and drives. I mean, it's not up to you. Okay. So, okay, Pablo is asking about the SII, if it's mandatory for those who invoice more than 6 millions or Redeme, the registry of monthly, yeah, the VAT monthly thing. Well, when you reach the 6 million, you have to comply with both. You Every company that invoices more than 6 million is automatically included in the Redeme, in the monthly redeeming of the VAT, and he has to apply or comply with the immediate providing of information, which is the SII. So it's both. It's not one or the other. It's both right
Mhm.
away.
Perfect.
So,
Next, Diogo, will Agencia Tributaria maintain a centralized public record of ERP POS companies that declare themselves compliant, self-certified, and send that declaration to them? I am not 100% sure. I don't know, Carlos, if you have certainty on this, but I would say that it's highly probable
no,
that it will happen, no?
no, because it's just any software can just publish the responsible
Declaration.
declaration. It's something that is internal there. You don't have to actually send it to your authorities. It's just any software has to have it included. It has to be published there. So they haven't mentioned anything about registry, because a registry would be sort of a validation, and that's the big problem. Actually, it's a huge problem with this regulation, that there's not an entity that will validate. So there's no entity that will certificate that your software is perfectly valid. So if in the future an inspection finds out it is not, you cannot say, okay, but they gave me the certificate. The authority in this case is pulling a step back and is leaving us facing the wolves. And no, they're not going to make a registry where you can, where there's some requirements to get in or anything. They just, for now, they might develop something in the future, but at the beginning, it's us, and as long as we understand that we are complying, I mean, as long as you understand you're complying, you will publish your responsible declaration, which basically means only that as long as you know, as far as you understand, you're complying, and that's it.
We'll
Uh,
accompany you through this process just to make it
yes,
clear. Okay. We'll
exactly.
probably make a short video, send it to you, go step by step. In any case, you have to fill it out, you have to do it. We'll see if there's finally a registry or not. But what matters is that we have to do it. Okay. So, next question, Carlos.
Okay, yeah. Christian says, to make it clear again, if I operate many branches with a head office in the Verifactu area, okay, the it doesn't, I mean, this is not about where your branches are or how it's distributed. We're talking about contributors. If your company pays its taxes in a very factual area and it invoices in total more than 6 million euros, then it will have to comply with the SII. Okay,
But Carlos, I think that
but
what he
if you have many branches and each branch is a different society and a different contributor, then each and every one of
yeah.
them will have to measure. It
That I
depends.
think
It's
that's
a
what
matter of
he meant. I
contributors.
think that's what he meant. Christian, I assume that there's a kind of a holding company that makes more than 6 million. That one has to comply with SII. If with branches, I guess that you mean legal entities. So if those legal entities are in the Verifactu region and they make below 6 million euros, they have to comply with Verifactu as well. Okay. What matters is the fiscal address, the fiscal,
And
sorry,
and
the
the fiscal
fiscal
ID, the
address of
fiscal
the
ID.
entity. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fiscal ID
Okay.
itself. If it's all about,
So
if all the branches belong to the same society, then it's one society. If each branch is a different society with its own fiscal entity, then each of them goes separately and depends on where they pay their taxes. So, yeah.
yeah, what matters is the ID, the tax ID. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, next one, Jeremy. Will you complete the submission for all three areas, main Spain, and its three zones and Navarra? So we only need to integrate to you for all agency. Yes, that's correct. Depending on where you register your customer, okay, we will send it to one tax agency or the other. So it's only one integration, compliance in all areas. Next, Carlos.
Okay. Yes, I have this one from Alexander, quite interesting. It says like facturas simplificadas are made without name, address, or tax number. If this client needs, once it's been invoiced or issued, to have changed this from factura simplificada to factura completa with the address and its name, can this be made, or do we have to channel the whole process and make it new? Okay, there's two different processes that are included under law, which is like rectification invoices, where you can just apply changes to an already issued invoice, or there's also some cases where it's contemplated and where it's allowed to anular. I wouldn't say, Eduardo, would you
Oh,
say anular,
yeah.
but
So,
make,
mm,
hmm?
yeah, I think
Yep,
that Carlos, what Alexander is meaning is if you have a simplified invoice, if it's
yep,
possible to add the recipient data without rectifying the previous simplified invoice, and the response is yes. We actually have one type of invoice which is called enrichment invoice. Okay, and basically what you can do is you issue your simplified invoice, and then in this enrichment invoice you send us the recipient data, and we complement the information that we have from the simplified invoice, and we send it to the tax authorities. This use case, okay, and there are only very few. This use case makes it possible not to create a correcting invoice. Okay, a correcting invoice will have to be issued when uh, the amount is not right, the legal address of the entity that issues the invoice, etc. So as adding the recipient data is not, let's say, that relevant, you can send it. If imagine that you change the salesperson that sold that good or service, that's also possible to be changed without issuing a rectifying invoice. If you want to change the payment method, either cash or card, you can also change it. Okay. But there are only very few use cases where you don't have to create a correcting invoice. So I would be very careful with this, and we can talk about this in more detail in private if you want. Okay.
yes. And well, I see we keep on receiving different questions, but we're actually running, well, we're out of time. We programmed to finish at 20 to noon, and we hit it already. We make sure we write to each and every one of you who has a question that we haven't had the time to answer. I remind you, to those who joined not at the beginning, you're going to receive a link with the full video from this presentation, from the presentation and the Q&A section. And as I said, for any questions, see there's one from Diogo, from Nuno, some questions we don't have time to answer to now. Or we'll make sure we contact you right away, and we'll write. You have that address that you see in your screen now, equipo at fiskaly.com. You have both Eduardo and me personal details. Feel free to address us with any questions whatsoever. We'll be more than happy to help you. So, Eduardo, I don't know if you want to add some.
I think you ended perfectly the webinar. Thank you very much all for your attendance, for your questions. And as Carlos said, please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any doubt, any question. Yeah, we're
And
here for whatever you need.
we really hope to see you all on the 26th, when we'll go deeper into especially mostly technical details with this official from the tax authority. Okay, thank you so very much for your attendance, and
Thank you very
have a good
much.
day.
Take care. Ciao, ciao. Bye.